Gender euphoria is just as good a reason to transition as gender dysphoria is. This is true. This is very real. I very, very much believe this. Gender dysphoria can be a telling thing, but it is also something that's hard to internalize and to put into perspective yourself, especially where you're in the thick of dysphoria, right? When you're at the bottom of feeling like shit and that is all you've ever known. If your whole experience of dysphoria, that's just your normal. That's just what you're used to. So after a while, after many years of that, it's not going to feel like anything. And it's going to be really hard to recognize a lot of times that what you're feeling even is dysphoria. And it might not be until after you've experienced gender euphoria that then in retrospect, you can look at the dysphoria you're experiencing and realize like, hey, wait, I don't need to feel like that all the time. That's like not necessarily normal to just feel like that all the time. I could be feeling good all the time. What? That was kind of my experience with this. And yeah, no, gender euphoria and getting to feel that is really what made it clear to me that, yeah, I was trans. And let me be even more clear about something. You can be trans without dysphoria. If that needs to be said, you can be trans without dysphoria. You don't need to be experiencing dysphoria to be trans. You don't need to be experiencing dysphoria to look for gender-affirming treatment, HRT, to look for ways to affirm your body and your gender expression through your clothing, through the way you socialize, whatever. A lot of scientific literature about trans people and looking at trans people focus on gender dysphoria as a measurement just because that is the main way that people measured something. Dysphoria was the main way and is the main way that a lot of research looks at trans people, just because that is a thing you can go through and look at. And it becomes a very easy, like, well, reduce dysphoria, positive effect. That is the goal. That doesn't mean that gender euphoria doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that gender euphoria isn't important. It just means that it's not used as much. And actually, there just wasn't a tool or wasn't a way to measure that before. There wasn't like a questionnaire that looked at gender euphoria. And unfortunately, well, I don't think this was intentional. That does bias and paint the way that scientists and people all over look at and think about trans people. That is the reason why gender dysphoria is the main thing that's talked about and why this even needs to be said. Our observations can only be as good as the tools that we are using to make the observations. Gender dysphoria can be a sign, but it is not a requirement.